Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me make sure everything's going good. Awesome. All right, here we are on day 6 of the Richard Allen trial. Usually, what we do is we cover the day before, and then we'll get into what's going on today. We have what's going on today. They have Dan Doolin, the guy that took the report, and then they have Steve Mullen. This is, I think, his third time coming back on the witness stand. He's going to talk about how the Hoover Harb store captured a vehicle that appears to be Richard Allen's, allegedly. And apparently Richard Allen had a black Ford Focus, and he had special black rims. And at 127 from east going west, there is a car, a black Ford Focus with distinctive black rims and distinctive spokes that are mentioned. So anyway, before we get started, we always like to get back by featuring the missing. So we're going to do that real quick, and then we'll do just a 2-minute recap of their story for anybody that's not familiar with this case. Today we have Aidan Clary. He went missing October 1st, so he's been missing 23 days now, out of Aurora, Colorado. Looks like he's 22 years old. 160 pounds, 5'10", black hair, brown eyes. Looks like he's got some color in there in this picture, kind of like a dark red. It says that he left his residence his mom last lived at after an argument and has not been in contact with his family. Let's see, it says his family's concerned for his safety. So a possible runaway, which hopefully will have a happy ending. Anybody in Colorado, keep an eye out for Aidan. If you have any tips, you can call 303-627-3100. Again, that's Aidan Clary, missing out of Aurora, Colorado, missing October 1st of this year. Okay, let's get going here. Let's see. I think I got the video up. All right. So again, as you guys come in, please, if you can, hit that like button. And I'm just going to play a quick 2-minute recap of Abby and Libby's story, and then we're going to jump into day 5 because there's always some notes. Again, we're going off journalists. We don't have transcripts or video or audio of the court sessions. So there's always, some journalists are going to get some things, and then another journalist will capture other things. And then so what I do is after I go live, then I listen to a bunch of different either podcast or YouTuber. And so I try to collect a bunch of notes because there's always other tidbits that one journalist may miss.
Abby Williams and Liberty German had made last-minute plans to go to the Monon High Bridge, which was supposed to be a teenage hangout with a historic trail and a really high old abandoned bridge. The two girls, who were best friends, just had a sleepover the night before and were excited when Libby's sister, Kelsey German, said she would drop them off as long as the two girls found a ride home, which they did. Although it was February, the temperature was nice for that day. And even though it was a Monday, they had school off that day. The two girls, Abby and Libby, would be dropped off just before 2 p.m., where they planned on only staying for a couple of hours. The two teens, Abby and Libby, would begin walking the 501 trail to the Monon High Bridge. As the two would approach the bridge, Libby, who had her iPhone, would take 2 pictures, one as they passed the first platform, and another which shows Abby looking down as she is crossing the scary, tall, gap-filled railroad tie. The girls didn't know it yet, but they were not alone. As a few hours would go by, the father of Libby, Derek German, would show up, but the two girls were not at the meetup spot. Thinking that the two teens just lost track of time, he would end up calling Libby's phone. The phone was ringing, but no one was answering. He would begin searching for the two teens, but when running into other people, no one had seen them. Eventually, the authorities would be called out, and this would lead to a search party looking for the two girls. But sadly, there was no sign of them on that first night of the 13th. With the search being called off late that night for safety reasons, it would be resumed early that next day. They brought in helicopters, divers, and many other resources to scour the area. But just around noon that day, they would soon discover a grisly scene. Authorities would discover the two girls across the river, and both had sadly been murdered.
Investigators solemnly identified the two bodies found in Carroll County as 13-year-olds Libby German and Abby Williams.
We would soon get multiple press conferences, including one of the most memorable statements by Superintendent Doug Carter.
All right. Thank you so much, Godspeed. Great job. Love what you're doing. It's crazy to think I was in Indiana when this happened. I wish I could try to help them, but I'm so glad people like you are uncovering this terrible tragedy. I appreciate that, Godspeed. A lot to go over. Let me get caught up in chat here. We've got Gail Hurd gifting some Mob Crew memberships. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Gail. If by chance you did get gifted a membership, if you could please thank Gail. That is so sweet. Bless you, Gail. You are a legend and a huge supporter of this channel. Let me get to the spot here. Okay. All right. So again, I know we got more people in here. Jennifer, just let me know if I need to kick up the speed as more people come in. I'll kind of keep an eye on it here. But thank you again, Gail. Looks like more gifted Mob Crews memberships. Bless you so much. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with yesterday. I know today is day 6, but again, as I said before, there's always more info that I learned even into late last night. And so we're going to start with day 5, and we'll go over some of the stuff that we missed while we were live yesterday.
17. Carbaugh says you can park 4 cars across at the entrance. Carbaugh said she crossed the mountain.
So yesterday, the first witness was Sarah Carbaugh. Obviously, she, for those that don't know, she's the one that was driving on the country road and spotted this guy walking, I believe, on the north side. So it was on the driver's side. And I have a kind of a preview halfway through this interview of the actual road. Even though it's kind of 2 lanes, it's a fairly narrow road for 2 lanes. And so she was heading east, he was heading west. So I believe that was on the driver's side. And so she spotted him, she says about 30 seconds, she was going about 30 to 35 miles an hour. I think she said at one point she kind of slowed down because obviously she had noticed that he was covered in mud and blood and may have thought he had been injured. But here is her testimony.
High Bridge at least 3 times as a child. Carbaugh said she heard the Amber Alert for Abby and Libby when it was issued and drove by the Mears entrance 3 times.
Hey, Sensei.
She said around 4 p.m. that day, Carbaugh saw a group of people near the entrance. She said that included at least one person who was blonde, wearing a pink sweatshirt, and looking stressed out. I saw a man covered in mud and blood walking on the side of the road, Carbaugh said. Carbaugh said she did not recognize the man, but that he made eye contact with her. This was before she learned the girls were missing.
So
Carbaugh labeled.
Carbaugh, she, according to a lot of the journalists and people that were there yesterday. Oh, why is this doing this? Give me a second. Let me adjust it. So just in case I have it being read out, but just in case anybody wants to read along while it's being narrated. I'm trying to get it just right here. But yeah, she was a witness that everybody really they really liked her because she was very honest. She even said at one point, "Yes, I'm a cowardly lion," because she didn't come forward right away. I think it took her a few months before she actually came forward, even though she had heard about the girls missing and then of course then being murdered. And yeah, just a very honest person, and that definitely came out. And that's why I like to go back the day before, because you get to hear each person's, because there's a lot of people there. They're taking notes, but not everybody's going to have the same notes. And some will catch some things that are said and miss others, while others, So trying to put it all together, basically. And yeah, so she, like I said, she at one point said, "Yeah, I am the cowardly lion." And then, so we'll continue on with what she said here.
Where she saw the man on a map as the bridge guy. She also said she recognized the bridge guy as the man covered in mud and blood walking on the side of the road. Carbaugh described the man's demeanor as very sketchy. She said the man had mud on his legs and blood further down. Carbaugh said she thought the man fell down a cliff and was injured. Carbaugh said she had the glow of the sun behind her as she drove to the east. I am very traumatized by anything murder-related, Carbaugh said. Carbaugh told the jury she waited 3 weeks to tell police what she saw.
Oh, 3 weeks.
She said she told herself she had to be brave. Carbaugh said the murders turned the entire town and everyone in it upside down.
Yeah, and she even said, I didn't want anything to do with this, She didn't want to be called. She didn't want to, be called to the stand. She just didn't want to be involved, period, because, she obviously was traumatized by this. And Gail, thank you so much, gifting all these memberships.
Carbaugh explained that the country road is not very wide, and this man was on the driver's side heading west while she was driving east.
Thank you, Jamie.
Since the road wasn't very wide, she got very close to this man as she passed him on the country road.
So here is the country road here. Shout out to Indie Archive. This is like a local. If you're ever interested in seeing any of the scenery around this area, the bridge, the cemetery, he's flown his drone. He's driven the streets. Yeah, it's like Indie Archive. If you just type that in YouTube, and yeah, he's just got a lot of footage from everything from drones to driving. So anyway, now he's driving east to west. So obviously she would have been going west to east, but this would have been the direction the suspect would have been walking. But as you can see, the road, I don't even think there's a line in the middle. So as you can see, even though it's made for two cars, it's still fairly narrow. And I believe when she had seen him, he was kind of just beyond or around the cemetery. Cemetery is right there. It's not very big. Obviously, if you went straight down from the cemetery, you would almost walk right to the crime scene. As you can see, here's the cemetery here. Not very big, and if you were to walk straight down, you would almost come into the crime scene. So clearly the killer, after doing this terrible thing to these girls, walked up north and then was walking along 300 North or Country Road, and she would have been driving by. Yeah.
It was then the defense turned to cross-examine the witness, Sarah Carbaugh.
Now, she was a part of it wasn't the first sketch that was made, but it was the first sketch that was officially released. which looked, more kind of like the guy in the picture. And she noticed that it looked like he had kind of like some curl hair coming out. And then she even talked about, and this wasn't mentioned yesterday, at least in the blogs that we were looking through, but apparently they went through a bunch of hats, and I think she referred to it like as going through a Tinder of, all these different hats, because she couldn't point out, so I think that's why they got this driver's like Ivy cap. It's got a lot of names. I've seen so many people mention different names, but I know driver's cap and Ivy cap is kind of one of the big ones.
Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin began the cross-examination of Carbaugh. Baldwin said that Carbaugh never mentioned...
Yeah, there is, but I mean, I can't blame them. I just, everybody's different on how they feel with this case. It may, hopefully, if they're, keeping an eye on this case, maybe it'll change their mind. I think there will be definitely some that, no matter what the outcome is, they think it's an inside job, and I don't think you're going to be able to convince them unless you've got a video of him, murdering the girls, and even then, I'm not sure if that'd change their mind.
Blood in her first interviews with police. Baldwin said blood does not appear in the transcript of the interview. Carbaugh said she thought she said it once in the first interview. Baldwin said she used mud 13 times but never blood. Carbaugh said there has been at least an hour of her interview she hasn't been able to watch. Baldwin said she didn't mention it in the second interview either, and provided her with both transcripts. Carbaugh said she saw nothing in the transcript mentioning blood, but said she did mention it to the officer. Carbaugh said there is a part in the transcript that mentions her mumbling, and she said that she begins to mumble when she is nervous.
So that was left out in the blog that we went through yesterday, and that was captured by the murder sheet. And she just basically said, and I think it's in the first interview, they had the transcript, but in it at one point it says she's just mumbling, and when she's nervous, she mumbles, and she said that's when she had used the term blood. And then I believe the second interview, a part of it, half hour to an hour, is missing. And she says in that one, she also said blood.
But claims this is when she had mentioned blood on the clothing. Baldwin said she also didn't mention blood in her third interview either.
Oh.
Baldwin said Carbaugh didn't mention it until 2019. I think I said mud and blood, Carbaugh said. You said it looked like a hog had been slaughtered, Baldwin said. Baldwin then asked if...
And the slaughtered like a hog, she just said that's like an analogy, which was also left out in the blog that we went through yesterday. But she mentioned, that's just an analogy. But she did observe blood, especially on the lower legs. I think knees, legs, and ankles, she said. And then the rest of them was kind of covered in mud.
She stopped to help the bridge guy. I am a woman, Carbaugh said. I am not going to stop and help a random man. Baldwin...
And that caught the jurors, because Baldwin asked her, why didn't you stop? And she's like, I'm not going to stop and help a random man. And apparently that a lot of people, especially women in the courtroom, were nodding their heads, like, because if he's walking, even though he is covered in blood, it's too bad she didn't call the police, though, and then maybe we wouldn't even be here. But hindsight's 20/20. Tom, good to see you, buddy. I think he got an Amber Alert on his phone while he was staging the scene. Did they say when the Amber Alert went out? I didn't even think about that. I hope justice is enough, because I can't think of a proper punishment. Oh, man. Could not agree with you on that second part. Oh, my, yeah. Thank you so much, Tom. Well said. Well said. Oh, I know who you're referring to. Yeah, I came across that. Yeah, get out of here. That guy's. I'm not drama. I don't like to talk about other channels, but I did catch that because, like I said, I try to get everybody's perspective, even on the people that think he's innocent, just to see if there's stuff that maybe I might have missed that they captured. And yeah, again, I think there's going to be a few that you just, no matter what, you know, um, you're not going to change their minds.
Said Carbaugh described the man as wearing a tan coat in the
Bootlicking.
first interview, then changed it to blue in the second interview. In my first interview, I did describe the color of the coat wrong, Carbaugh said. Outside of this testimony, I want nothing to do with this. Baldwin said that Carbaugh asked not to be shown a photo during her interview, but was shown anyway. He said the officer kept the photo out throughout the interview. Baldwin said that during the interview, Carbaugh said the bridge guy had curly hair and very feminine eyes. A visibly upset Carbaugh denied saying the bridge guy had feminine eyes. Carbaugh said she saw the bridge guy for less than a minute. Wearing extreme amount of layers for a warm day and just being weird, Carbaugh said.
Yeah, so she even stood up and kind of reenacted how he. I don't think she was actually walking, but she reenacted like he was hunched over and had his hands in his pocket. But since he had kind of the bright blue jeans on, that the blood stains were very, because they were bright red, she could tell. And they were, like, again, they were on his knees down to basically his ankles, she describes.
Prosecuting attorney Stacy Diener began her redirect. Diener asked Carbaugh if the person she saw had a tan sweater. Carbaugh said, yes. Diener asked if the bridge guy had a hat. Carbaugh said the hat stood out to her and that it looked funky. Carbaugh said she saw the bottom of the man's ears, but said her mind was tainted when it comes to the hat. Carbaugh said the man was hunched up, with his hands in his pockets the entire time. Diener said the last hour to half hour of Carbaugh's second interview in 2017 is missing. Carbaugh agreed and said she discussed the blood in the missing portion of the interview. The prosecution brought up the enhanced photo of Bridge Guy taken on Libby's phone and highlighted areas marked as mud and blood. He was caked so much, Carbaugh said. He had to be right down by the river.
So that's very interesting.
In the cross redirect, Baldwin asked Carbaugh again if she said mud 13 times in the interview. Are we doing this again? Carbaugh asked.
So, yeah, apparently it got very heated between Baldwin and obviously Carbaugh. Obviously, Carbaugh, she doesn't want anything to do with this. She didn't want to be a part of it. And so I think she came off as a very honest witness because, again, she's just unfortunately was there at the wrong time. But at the same time, she's an important witness for the timeline. And but for those that are not as familiar with what's going on in the courtroom, especially with the defense, Baldwin, we have Baldwin, Rosie, and OJ. Baldwin is kind of like the calm one. Rosie is kind of like, if you did good cop, bad cop, Baldwin would be the good cop, Rosie would be the bad cop. He's probably the better one for, like cross-examining certain witnesses where maybe need to be a little bit more hostile. But they said that, even though it got heated, they were saying it was a good thing it was probably Baldwin doing the cross and not Rosie. But we're going to talk about Rosie because he got really upset, at least visibly, I don't think verbally, but visibly, when we talk about the pathologist.
Yes, we are, Baldwin answered. Baldwin asked how old she was at the time. Carbaugh answered that she is 35 now and was maybe 26 when the murders happened. Baldwin asked her why she thought she saw blood splatter, and Carbaugh said it was because she saw blood splatter.
It's all up to the juror's interpretation, obviously, because we don't have video of it, so we don't get to see it. We can only hear what others hear and see. But the jurors, obviously, they sound like smart jurors. They're asking questions almost every time each witnesses, because once a witness is done, before they get off the stand, the jury can ask questions, and they've been doing that throughout the 5. We're on day 6 now, on just about every witness once they're done. And so you could tell that they're taking this very seriously. And again, this will be up to the interpretation for the jurors.
When asked how obvious the blood was, Carbaugh said the whitewashed jeans made it more obvious. In a confrontational series of questions, Baldwin asked how close Carbaugh was to the man when she passed, which she responded with less than 3 feet. Baldwin said she had said 20 feet before. Carbaugh said she didn't have a tape measure her with her. Just before the end of her testimony, one of the prosecutors asked if she could be excused from her subpoena.
So I just noticed, obviously I'm running some of this with AI, and I just realized they put blood spatter, but it's spatter. So I know it's spatter, but it looks like they spelled it out as splatter, so it's going to read out that way.
Baldwin objected and said, "No, that doesn't excuse her from a subpoena," meaning she will be called back by the defense.
Yeah, so she was not happy about that. I feel bad for her. So usually when a witness is done testimony, doing her testimony, then the juror, then the prosecutor will say, or whoever's leading will say, can we release this witness now from her subpoena? And Baldwin's objected and said, nope, we're calling her back. So it looks like the defense will call Sarah back. And I'm assuming they'll try to perjure her. And that's what the defense is there, to do. So kudos to them. But I do feel bad for her, because it sounds like she's just an honest person who wasn't there kind of at the wrong time, and in a tough situation. All right, so now
Carbaugh claimed earlier that the guy was hunched over and had his hands in his pockets. She said you could see blood on his lower legs, feet, and ankles. The rest of him appeared to be muddy, as if he fell down a hill.
So now we're going to move on to the pathologist. So I might need to... Jennifer, let me know if I need to slow it down. You probably texted me. Okay, give me 1 second, and we'll slow this down here. So again, this is just showing the road, because she described it, and I think it's like... I guessed it was probably like a 30 to 35 mile
Pathologist Dr. Roland Kaur,
but she did say she kind of slowed down as she was passing him. Let me slow down the chat. I'll just keep playing this while I slow it down. So, trigger warning. We're gonna get into the pathologist from yesterday, because there was a few things that were talked about that I want to talk about today, that I think are very interesting. That was brought up, and so trigger warning. This is gonna be talking about injuries to the girls. Of course, we're going to try to do this very respectfully. Obviously, we're not showing anything. I do have one diagram, which shows just a line on an outlined female, just showing where one of the cuts on Abby was, because her cut was very interesting. That we
still performed some autopsies, testified. Kaur said he has performed between 7,700 and 7,800 autopsies over his career. Kaur said he was called on February 14, 2017, to perform the autopsies, which he did on Feb. 15, 2017. Kaur will continue showing images from the autopsies after court returns from break. Kaur's testimony resumes with a diagram showing the major vessels and veins in the neck and where Abby and Libby's throats were cut. Per the diagram, both of Libby's carotid arteries were severed. Her left jugular vein was also severed. Abby's jugular vein was only partially severed on her left side. She did not have cuts on her right side. The jury was shown photos of Abby's body, including a gaping wound on her neck.
Oh, thank you.
Core said the cut was clean on the left end, but there was more skin damage on the right side.
Okay, so we're really just going to kind of focus on Abby. Obviously, we'll kind of recap Libby, but we're really going to focus on Abby because of what the pathologist kind of thought of. And I'm going to show you because we didn't get to, go over that yesterday. And sorry, there's a huge crash outside my window. We didn't get to talk about why he thought about the box cutter and the thumb guard. And if anybody doesn't know what the thumb guard is, we'll talk about that and how that can pertain to a serrated edge. And yes. Carol, thank you so much for the Venmo. God bless you. I appreciate the support.
Core said the cut was likely made right to left and was maybe an inch deep.
Thank you so much.
Core noted a faint reddish mark between the chin and lower lip and under the chin below the mouth.
Yeah, I wonder what that was.
Abby's body also showed liver.
I wonder if maybe she got hit, there, because he said he thought about duct tape and a cloth, but obviously if there was duct tape, there would have been some kind of adhesive. They would have been able to, recover from the skin, even if it was ripped off. So I wonder, maybe she got hit in the mouth or something, but it was kind of interesting.
Mortis. This is when blood settles in the lowest part of the body after death, because the heart is no longer moving it. Abby's body showed livor mortis on her upper back and the backs of her legs, which had a purple color.
Yeah, I'm wondering, did they do a typo on this? Because, I was thinking rigor mortis myself. And, again, this is just AI.
Abby had been laying on her back for long periods of time
me, but
after her death, Core said.
So this is what was interesting. So the cut, it was on the left side of her neck. So this is my left. I know it looks like my right when I'm looking at you guys. The cut was, according to him, right to left. So it would have gone this way, right? According to what he says. Because there was more skin damage on the right side as I was getting cut. I guess that's what happens. Maybe I'm not an expert, but that's what he says, right to left. So that makes me wonder if he cut her while he was standing from behind her and surprised her with, a cut if he was right-handed. Because even left-handed, you would have to, I guess if you're standing to the side, right to left, that would work too. But I do wonder if maybe somehow he snuck up behind. And anyway, I hate to mention that, but I thought that was interesting, the right to left. Because you're thinking if you're facing your victim, you're right-handed, it would be on the right side of the neck, and it would be right to left, going outside to in. So just thought I would mention that. Again, we're not going to really get into Libby. We'll recap, but we're not going to, have any diagrams because obviously
Core estimated Abby would have had to have been in the position for at least 8 hours to have the permanent livor mortis. Core said Libby's body exhibited no SA trauma and had no defensive wounds. Libby had 4 wounds on her neck, and possibly a 5th. Core said 2 of the wounds overlap, so that at first it looked...
Yeah, I know, Alan, you were talking about that yesterday. I'll show this one more time. Oops. So obviously it would be her left side, but it was right to left. So I put an arrow kind of going right to left. So this would be the right to left, if that makes sense. So I thought maybe either he came up from behind and, and I hate to, but because I know Alan was asking me about this. So it either he was behind and it was right to left. if he was facing in front of her, you would think it would be on her right side going in, right to left inward and not out. So, or if he was standing parallel, to the side of her, that would also make sense as well. So to me, I think that may be right-handed if you're going right to left.
Passes to create the X-like pattern in the largest wound.
It's possible.
Core said pulling away while getting cut could change patterns. Core said there were 5 marks near the edge of the wound on the right side of Libby's neck. Core said he initially thought the wound was caused by a serrated knife. But Core said he thought more about it in the last few months, while preparing for the trial. Core said he now feels it is more abrasions, from something other than a serrated edge. During deposition with defense attorney Brad Rossi, Core said the marks were not typical serrations, but were serration-like. Core told the jury he happened to have a box cutter on his workbench. He said it has several parallel lines for the thumb grip. Core said the more he thought about it, he thought the marks could be from the side of a box cutter.
Parallel lines. Okay, so the two things you got to remember here. Parallel lines. I'm going to show you what the thumb guard is, because it was, and maybe I should have done a diagram here, just to show. But so basically, and you'll see what I'm talking about here once I show it. What was happening here. Now, don't think of this as the head. Just think this is just part of the neck. But there was, basically what he says was parallel lines. So there's like a cut, but then there's like another line that's kind of cutting too, right? Almost. And let me show you why he thought about the box cutter, and why, of course, for those who've been following this case, somebody has supposedly one of the confessions is a box cutter.
A serrated edge. During deposition with defense attorney Brad Rossi, Core said the marks were not typical serrations, but were serration-like. Core told the jury he happened to have a box cutter on his workbench. He said it has several parallel lines for the thumb grip. Core said the more he thought about it, he thought the marks could be from the side of a box cutter.
So this is kind of what a serrated blade. Obviously, this one's a little bit different. I got a better example. But that's one look at a serrated blade. But I'll show you a better one as well. But here is now. So these are the box cutters I used when I worked. This one here is actually the one I used the most when I was at Albertsons. This is basic. It has no kind of protection to it. I loved them because they're so thin and easy to, whereas these ones were bulky and they're a pain in the butt to change out because you have to unscrew them. And these ones are just so easy to change the blade because I had to go through blades all the time, and it's just simple, but it has no kind of protection from the user, even though, I use it all the time. That, the only time I only cut myself a very limited amount of times, but still, they tried, there's so many variations. This is why I think it's very huge, because we'll talk about it here in a second, but this could be very damning for Richard Allen. So this is a box cutter with a thumb guard. It's this right here, where you can actually put your thumb right here. If you're right-handed, this would be kind of basically a right-handed box cutter. Most are right-handed. But as you can see, you can actually put your thumb down and place it there. That way you can get more, obviously, more pressure down on where you're cutting. Of course, I didn't have that, and I would actually have to, when I had to put pressure, I would actually have to put my finger So if this was the box cutter, I'd actually put my finger here to put pressure. But with these ones, you have the thumb guard, so now it's it's better, and you cut. So obviously that's just kind of the evolution of box cutters. Yeah, well, we'll get to the dark secrets and everything. We have to go through everything in order. So basically what they're saying is they're seeing parallel lines as it cuts. So, oops, that's the other thing I forgot to mention. So as you can see, the blade sticks out, but there's a gap between the thumb guard and the blade. So, and then see how and this is pretty thin. Obviously, just this right here, even though it's not like razor sharp or anything, I mean, if you dug in, you could cut somebody with this, and that would look like a serrated edge. And you would have a blade that is next to it, and that's where you get a parallel cut. And that's why, well, one will look serrated, because this one, as he's cutting into the skin, I'm sorry to get graphic, but for people to understand this, as you're cutting somebody, you would obviously, this would start to, if you're trying to go deep, this would start to cut as well in a parallel spot. And so you would get something like this, but the blade, let's see, so if this part was the thumb guard, this would have more of the serrated cut, whereas this one would be obviously a razor sharp cut. And they noticed that a lot, especially on Libby, because, Abby just had one, whereas Libby had, sadly, multiple cuts. And so that's basically what is going on there, is you have the razor blade on this one here, and the guard as well, cutting fairly parallel. And that one's causing kind of a serrated edge cut. So hopefully that explains it. Yeah, I've used a lot of box cutters in my life. Now, yeah, obviously not on anybody except for boxes, but now this obviously doesn't look good for Richard Allen, because one of his confessions we learned is he had something in my throat. He told somebody, I believe an inmate, that he used a box cutter to kill the girls with. And that is something that I don't think anybody would have ever thought of. Especially when they had, for the longest time, it was rumored that she, especially Libby, sadly was nearly decapitated. That was not the case, but that was rumored for a very long time. Although she did have some, obviously very fatal wounds on both sides of her neck, they weren't as deep as, it was originally speculated. Now, why this is such damning, not only did he confess to this, but there are so many box cut different. If you just type in box cutter, there's so many different box cutters. And what's interesting is now, for those that are maybe newer to this channel, I always have to say this, because even last night, again, I see on national news them saying Richard Allen was a pharmacist. He was not a pharmacist. He was a night supervisor, and he would use a box cutter, because obviously he would stock shelves, maybe help out with the cashiers, and the reason people think he's a pharmacist is because he had to get a pharmacy tech license every 2 years, because I'm assuming he had to maybe change the tills at the end of the day, because he's the shift supervisor, and to get into the pharmacy you have to have a pharmacy tech license, something to that effect. Now, if they go and find out that they use, because like I said, the box cutters I used are the two that I've shown you. the basic one, and then this one's another one I used. But every retail store, have different box cutters. Anybody in retail could probably agree if you've worked in retail. And so if they go to CVS, which they did, and I'm sure they asked to see their box cutters, and I'm sure they have a unique, brand of box cutters that they order from probably Uline or whatever. And if it's got the one with a thumb guard, that's not going to be good. Along with him already allegedly, confessing to using a box cutter. So, as you can see, there are so many variations of a box cutter. So many variations. And a lot of them don't have the thumb guard. I think there was one job when I was just temporarily working for construction. I think I had one with the thumb guard, but there's just so many different ones. But a lot of them don't have the thumb guard. So, again, with the confession, and if we find out that they go in and seeing what kind of box cutters they used, which I hope they did, because if it does have a thumb guard, that's just another nail in the coffin, in my opinion.
Attorney Jim Luttrell asked Core what the body would do when it gets a wound like Abby's. Core said the bleeding would not be under pressure, so it would be slower.
So I'm going to skip this just a little bit because I obviously they talk about Libby's wounds, obviously very fatal. But one thing that was going on is once he mentioned box cutter, the people said that because obviously Rosie was doing the cross-examination, after he had mentioned the box cutter, they could tell he was furious. He was apparently shaking and actually had to put his hand in his pocket. Clearly this was a surprise to the defense because he never did, had mentioned a box cutter. This is something that he just kind of thought about. And so, I understand them to be upset, but really this is just something he kind of thought about recently. If you believe the narrative, of course, I'm sure there's others that think, oh, how convenient. But yeah.
Deposition on February 27, 2024. Core said the girls had been dead between 24 and 48 hours. Core said that the biggest challenge they face in forensics is determining the time of death. Core said he didn't see crime scene photos until 2024 and couldn't determine the time of death based on the photos. Sarazi said that Core couldn't say anything definitive about the type of blade used to kill her during deposition.
Yes. Now, of course, yeah, he did say he can't say, yes, it was a box cutter that was used. So, yeah, for the defense, it's only opinion. That's something that came to him recently. But the other thing that was said is he believes the minimum number of blades used was likely one, but obviously that's the minimum amount. So he said one blade could have done the damage to both girls because, one looked more serrated cut and one looked more clean.
Rosie quoted Core as having said anything from a pocket knife to a kitchen knife. Rosie then asked if the 5 to 10 minutes it would take to die from the cuts would have given Abby time to react. Rosie mentioned running or screaming. Rosie noted Abby's trachea was intact.
Okay, well...
I said they weren't classic serrations, Core said. I was unsettled because they weren't classic serrations.
So he did say they weren't classic serrations. So that goes back to the box cutter theory, which, again, he thought it was odd that they had this parallel cuts. And I don't... Obviously now the bodies are gone, but yeah, that's interesting. Obviously they have photos, but again, that's very interesting.
So what could have caused these marks? Rosie asked if Core called Rosie back after changing his mind. Core said, no. Rosie asked if Core spoke with the prosecution. Core said, yes. Rosie said that Core couldn't definitively say a box cutter was used. Core agreed he could not definitively. Core said a supplemental report would be speculative, not definitive. Either way, Rosie said, it's all speculation. During redirect, Luttrell asked what was the minimum number of knives used to cause all the wounds. Core said 1. Core said just because it was different marks doesn't mean it was a different instrument. Libby's mother and at least one member of the jury were visibly emotional.
Yeah, obviously, because they had to see, close-ups of the wounds. So that was very tough on them. Okay, so now we go to Cecil, because there's some very interesting stuff in this. And to me, I think this really kind of throws out the defense's theory that the girls were taken away because the iPhone, they can go in. If anybody's familiar with the Alex Murdaugh case and how they were able to track, remember they were able to track all the phones, like when they was being used, when it was turned on, just by when they turn the phone on, not like the phone on, but turn the screen on, and they're if they have like a code, they can tell all the basically commands that are being input to the phone. And that was huge for the Alex Murdaugh case. And obviously they used some of the same technology here. And so we're going to go over that. And then we're going to jump into today, day 6. Connie, thank you so much with the gifted, or excuse me, not the gifted, with the super chat. Your hard work is appreciated. Thank you for all you do. It's an honor. And I really appreciate that because, I've been going at it 24/7 after I go live. I'm writing down notes. And, of course, I'd like to have visuals for you guys, especially in certain situations that we can do visuals. All right, so I think this is the last person for yesterday, which we didn't really get into yesterday. And there were some bombshells, in my opinion, that happened at the end of the day yesterday. So
the state's 20th witness is Indiana State Police Sergeant Christopher Cecil, a 20-year law enforcement officer and the commander of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Cecil reanalyzed Libby's cell phone and SIM card in 2019. Cecil said that ISP got a gray key device in 2019.
So I think gray key, there's a lot of terms like cellular bright, there's different programs that they use basically to, dissect the phone more or less. And so we hear gray key a bunch, and even cellular bright, that one's probably the most familiar term that we've heard in a lot of cases. So I'm going to let this play. I've just got to turn on my AC, so I'm going to put this full screen for just a second so I can quickly do that.
That allowed them to unlock Apple devices like iPhones. Cecil says that after getting the gray key, ISP re-examined Libby's iPhone. Cecil said they performed a full file extraction to get all of the phone's content. That included active and deleted files and metadata. Cecil said the data was ingested into a program like Celebrite to make it readable. Cecil said he performed a detailed analysis on Libby's phone data between June 26th and August 21, 2019. Cecil said he specifically looked at data from Feb 13, 2017. Cecil said his goal was to establish a timeline of how the phone was being used and what was happening in the background. Cecil said 2 people were using the phone, Abby and Libby. The Touch ID had 6 fingerprints saved. Using the phone's health app, Cecil said he determined the girls walked about 700 meters between 1:31 p.m. and 2:08 p.m. on February 13. Cecil said the phone stopped moving at 2:32 p.m. on February 13.
So, of course, we've talked about this before. We've known about this for quite a while now, but Obviously, that was very disturbing to hear because we know the video, a bridge guy is taken at 2:13, and we're going to learn that these programs that are going to be used can determine, what kind of elevation changes, even steps, because they had the health app going. Obviously, her phone's a little bit older than, the one that we've seen in Alex Murdoch case. So I'm assuming, with Alex Murdoch case, there was a lot more details, but they're kind of similar. But anyway, with the 232, that likely meant that's a 19-minute difference, and that likely means that that Libby at the very least was attacked 19 minutes after that video because that phone stopped moving at 2:32.
Cecil said there is something called knowledge C data that logs things you don't know are being logged. He said that before 2019, the data extraction community didn't know about knowledge C. Cecil said that Graykey is the first equipment to pull the knowledge C data. Cecil presented a timeline of activity on Libby's phone on that day.
So we see here a bunch of time stamps here. 141, a picture posted to Snapchat. 143, another Snapchat. Obviously, the video taken a bridge guy. 2:13 and 51 seconds. And this one's kind of really disturbing because at 2:14 and 41 seconds, someone tries to unlock the phone. So it seems right after that 43-second video, it seems like maybe Libby tried to unlock it. Maybe she had it in her pocket while they're being escorted down the hill, and was maybe trying to unlock it to to dial 911 or something. So it's really tough to see that, because I'm assuming that's what she was probably trying to do. Yeah, anybody saying he's a pharmacist, have you ever seen a pharmacist produce photos at a CVS store?
In 2019,
Pharmacists do not work anywhere else except in the pharmacy. And there's tons of interviews with people that worked with Richard Allen. He's always worked in the retail side of things. He has a pharmacy tech license because he has to go change out, I'm assuming, the cash tills in the at the end of the day, because he's a shift supervisor. And for whatever reason, he has to get that every 2 years. So you'll see in 2016, 2018, 2020, he's got these pharmacy tech renewals. I don't know, that sounds kind of ridiculous in my opinion, but all right, continuing with this, and then we're going to get into day 6, but there's a bombshell that happened at the end of day 5.
Cecil provided this report to investigators. Cecil said that by 2024, the programs he had used to read the data had been updated. Cecil used it to reprocess the raw data he had first looked at in 2019. Cecil said the review didn't change the data he had before, but it did add more. He said his new analysis took place between May 10th and August 18 of 2024. Cecil showed the jury a list of things Knowledge C data tracks. Cecil told the jury the data is volatile and can be deleted unpredictably. Knowledge C tracks when the device is used, but doesn't show pictures or video. Cecil said that pictures or videos on the phone's camera roll would not be deleted when the phone is turned on or off using Knowledge C. The second analysis provided Cecil.
So obviously some of this was a little bit redundant. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and skip this a little bit. I don't want to skip too far because it's the next part. But at the end, he talked about how the phone according to with him running all the programs, that phone never turned off. and we've mentioned it before, iPhones, what they do is when they're running really low on power, they'll stop running the major programs, apps, whatever, and try to store just that little bit of power for the main functions of the phone. And that's why it lasted almost another 12 hours, where at 4:33 a.m. it died. Just before it died, it kicked on for the last time, even though it was on, but it kicked on receiving messages, and then it would die. But he says that phone was not turned off between 2:32 when the phone stopped moving and until it died at 4:33 a.m. the next day. Now the defense says that they believe that the girls were abducted on the access road and they were taken. They weren't really clear whether when they killed the girls, if it was when they abducted them or when they brought them back. Again, I just can't wrap my mind around why you would abduct girls and then you're going to bring them back to this place that you had just abducted them from, knowing that they're searching for these girls. And we've seen video. There's video of them when they're searching at night. It's pitch black. Obviously, it's in the woods, no lighting. They got flashlights out, and so they're going to bring these girls back sometime at like 3:34 a.m. Haul them down this road or down this, down this wooded area, and kill them in the pitch black, dark, and then turn on the phone. So clearly, that they, according to the defense, are saying that these killers knew that they had a phone. I can't understand a killer turning on the phone and then leaving it under the body. To me, the logic does not make sense in that. And he said, obviously because of the health app, that phone stopped moving at 2:32. So now, if a phone is in the car and it's got a health app going, it does recognize that unless there are bumps. But again, if let's say they did abduct him at 2:32 and now they're in the car. Oh, oops, I gotta change that. Sorry, Jennifer. They're in the car. They abduct him. Well, they got to bring him back. So now they're going to be walking again. And unless they're floating or flying, how is that phone not recording steps? Sorry, I got to change the speed on this. So, in my opinion, of course, I want this to be a fair trial. But I just, the defense's theory, when hearing that in the opening statements, the logic doesn't make sense. Sorry, Jennifer. Anyway, so that's what's great about technology is, we can get to the truth about what's going on. No, as far as this is what we're going to talk about next. That's a great question.
Cecil said, as battery life went down,
Cecil.
the phone would close more quickly and worked more slowly. Cecil said the phone stayed on until 4:30 a.m. on February 14, 2017. It received a bunch of SMS messages around 4:33 a.m. Cecil said there was no indication the phone turned off between the last time it moved at 2:32 p.m. on February 13 and 4:33 a.m. the next day. At 4
All right, so
during crossing,
skip
but within a
here.
few seconds, it quickly shows the location as near the Monon High Bridge.
So one of the things in the GPS is because the video is so short, the GPS location actually showed at like the Delphi High School. But then, of course, as the video continued on, the proper GPS showed the Monon Bridge.
During cross-examination, defense attorney...
So this is where there was a shocking moment where Auger, the defense, she's been kind of... obviously, there's the three of them, Bradley Rosie, Andrew Baldwin, and Jennifer Auger. And from what I heard, OJ's been doing pretty good. And she usually is questioning kind of like the experts with computers and stuff like that. Seems kind of be her focus or her kind of area of expertise in that. But she brought up something interesting, and that allowed the prosecution to ask something. And I thought this was very interesting.
Jennifer Auger asked about
OJ.
Cecil, noting earlier in the afternoon that the phone sent 15 texts all at once to Libby's phone at 4:34 a.m., February 14, 2017. He reiterated that he didn't know why that happened, but noted that if a phone doesn't have service, texts once service is restored will all have the same timestamp.
Yeah.
Cecil also noted, during cross-examination and the prosecutor's redirect, that he'd looked at 23 devices of suspect Richard Allen.
So Richard Allen, and we'll look at this here in just a minute. Of course, we know when they did the search warrant, he had a ton of phones. I mean, all the way back to Nokia days. And I'm assuming he saved basically every phone because maybe pictures or whatever. But they had 23 phones. So keep that in mind.
Access to the devices was provided November 8, 2022. Cecil said he found nothing to tie Allen to Abby and Libby.
So he said he did do a search to see if there was any connection to Allen to the victims, and through all of his searches. So this would be a good thing for the defense. As far as before the murders, there's no connection that he found. So, I guess that's good for the defense. But when OJ was asking this, she kind of opened up the door because she asked about the phones. And so the prosecution got to redirect on that, because obviously when they do redirect or rebuttals or whatever, it has to be kind of under the same context of what the prior is talking about.
Other than his searches for information about the missing girls.
So one thing that he said is that nothing before the murders, but Allen did search for the girls after they went missing. So to me, I don't think that looks good. So it's kind of a hit and miss, where she was trying to bring up that, there was no connection before the murders, but clearly he was searching the murders and knew about them.
Prosecution pointed out that Allen had a different phone in 2017 not included in the seize.
So how convenient. It seems that Richard Allen keeps all of his phones, his prior phones, but the one that was missing is the one that he had in 2017. That just kind of got misplaced or broken on accident. I'll let you be the judge, but I don't think that looks good at all.
The jury asked questions of Cecil as well. One juror asked if Cecil had checked to see if ATT had issues with cell towers on February 13 to 14, 2017. Cecil said he didn't check. Jurors also asked several questions, including ones about how Snapchat works and what it records and saves.
So here's when we're going over the search warrant. And here's I just pulled up like examples. Obviously, these aren't the exact things but he kept his pagers. I mean, pagers. This is back in 2000. Motorola, the flip phone, the Nokia days. Oh my gosh, it brings back some crazy memories. But this guy literally is keeping everything that he had prior to electronic wise. 23 cell phones. And the one phone that he doesn't have, that they didn't get, was the phone he had in 2017. To me, that doesn't look good. So anyway, we move on to day 6.
The first witness of the day.
All right, so we are going to go to Kathy Shank. Yeah, the F tree, just, if we get time, maybe we go back to it, but really that's just an upside down L, and we've explained that. We've even had a crime scene expert come on and explain, and he called it out way before we heard the expert for the prosecution, which is really just a finger with a bloody hand going across kind of the top and blood kind of rolling down. And then just a hand kind of coming in contact a couple of times. Let me catch up on chat real quick so I make sure I got everybody. Connie, hit that like button to get this video out, please, and thank you. Thank you so much, Connie, for being a member for 6 months. You got the 6 now. That's awesome. And thank you again for the support earlier. And we've got Mama Styles coming in with the Mob Crew membership. Thank you so much, Mama Styles, for supporting this show. All right. Okay, we're going to continue on. Day 6. First witness, Kathy Shank. It's weird because I knew a Kathy Shanks. So it was really hard not to say Shanks. But she is the one that he apparently found the old tip about Richard Allen.
Is Kathy Shank, who volunteered to help with the case. Shank says she told police, "I would really like to help in any way I can." Shank was assigned to work as a receptionist at the old Armec building, starting on March 1st, 2017. She previously worked for Indiana DCS for 40 years before retiring.
I don't.
Shank said she would take tips from people who came in and pass the information to detectives upstairs. Shank said she arranged bankers' boxes of information and tips. She said she would sort reports, label them, and put the information into file cabinets. Shank said she filled 5 filing cabinets with person of interest folders. She said a friend helped as a file clerk. Shank said they moved from the REMC building to a city building. She said she took file cabinets with her. Shank said she then entered tips into a database. Shank said Sheriff Tony Liggett was her main go-to for the case. In September 2020, Shank said she was asked to start scanning. Shank said the work took 2 years to complete.
Man, can you imagine all of those like tips and reports? 2 years to go through. Remember, she starts in September of 2020. And guess when she's going to come across that tip if she says it took 2 years to complete? This is crazy.
Said she entered more than 14,000 tips on the Delphi murders into the database. At 9:30 a.m., prosecuting attorney Stacy Diener asked, "Was there something that brought your attention to Richard Allen?" This was the first time Richard Allen's name had been mentioned since opening statements on Oct. 18. Shank said she found a lead sheet in a box. The sheet said that on Feb 16, 2017, a Richard Allen Whiteman had self-reported being on the trails between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. on the day.
So the sheet said February 16, 2017. So keep that in mind. That's interesting. But a self-report being on the trails.
Abby and Libby went missing. According to Shank, Allen had reported seeing 3 girls. Shank said she remembered seeing another tip that a man had been on the trail. Shank said she compared the tip to the file that had Richard Allen's name in it. Shank said she didn't know how the tip or lead sheet had gotten into that box. Shank said the narrative summary in the database said that Allen had been interviewed. The file had the word "cleared" on it.
So for some reason, they cleared him. Maybe that was an accident. They thought maybe they followed up on this tip. But so now we can see that They apparently originally cleared it. Maybe that was just completely accidental. Obviously, maybe we'll never fully know the full truth on that, and I'm sure there's some certain people out there going to harp on this.
It also had a green mark that indicated it was cleared. Shank said she took the file to Liggett. Shank said she pulled the written tip about Allen being interviewed in 2017 and changed the file name to Richard Allen.
So obviously the tip, his name is Richard M. Allen, who lives on Whiteman Drive. But for some reason, they entered the name originally as Richard Whiteman on Allen Drive. So they switched the last name for the first word in the street name and vice versa. And that could have been one of the many reasons why this tip just got lost.
She told the jury she made this discovery on September 21st, 2022. Shank told the jury that her job was not to decide if a tip should be followed up on, that she simply was tasked with organizing.
I know why I pulled this up. Let me just go back to this.
Cleared.
I went a little too
Shank
far.
said she took the file to Liggett. Shank said she pulled the written tip about Allen being interviewed in 2017.
So remember I said September 2020, and here she is on September 21 of 2022, so 2 years later, going through all these files. And guess what was going on at that time on September 21st?
And changed the file name to Richard Allen. She told the jury she made this discovery on September 21st, 2022. Shank told the jury that her job was not to decide that her job.
And what was going on during September 2022 is the Wabash River Search, which had started in August. It started on August 19th. So she was still going through those tips, probably just weeks away, or actually a month away, technically. And she made that discovery on September 21st, and I think they finished, and that may be the reason they pulled out. I'm not sure, but now, allegedly, why they were searching that river, for those that may not know, is because of Kagan Klein decided to tell a lie because he wanted to throw his father under the bus because he kind of got wind that, because everybody kind of got interested in the case again, especially when Klein kind of was mentioned, and then there was Tony Klein, and we heard, his terrible, background. And then, of course, Kagan Klein went to jail. And then his father stopped supporting him because his father's basically supported Kagan since he was a kid because Kagan is lazy. And apparently it was kind of a falling out. And Tony stopped putting money on his commissary, his books in the jail. And so to get back at his dad, he had told somebody that was talking to him that, and I think even to the ISP, is that he made up this story that his dad picked him up in the red Jeep on February 13th, and they drove to the Monon Bridge. He sat in the Jeep while his dad got out, came back a few hours later or whatever, said he had a great time or something to the effect like that. And then he said as they were driving back home, because they lived in Peru, they would have to go over the Wabash Bridge, with the Wabash River, and that his dad had thrown the weapon into the river, and Kagan had thrown his phone as well into the river. And that's what sparked that search. And allegedly, as far as we know, there was nothing found because that was all made up.
Defense attorney Andrew Baldwin began cross-examination. Baldwin asked Schenck if she knew if the information in the file was accurate. Schenck said she did not know. Baldwin said there is no Richard Allen Whiteman, which was the name in the file.
Tom says, oh, excuse me. Maybe his phone was part of the Wabash search. I would think they would mention that. Maybe that could have been an ulterior or a hidden motive as to why they were looking for that. But the official narrative that we know that they're saying is that it was because, there was a phone and a knife in that river. But he says maybe that was the last place that his phone pinged. Maybe they never found it. Yeah, it'd be curious to find that phone. But the other thing is, unfortunately, even if they found the phone, unless he actually took some pictures of the murders, we're talking about Richard Allen's phone that's missing from 2017, is unfortunately it can't go back to his, let's say if he had Verizon, they wouldn't be able to go back because Verizon, AT&T, they only keep the records, for so many years. And of course, after 5 years, they can't go back and go through those records. They can do a geofence, obviously at the time in the area. Obviously, there was no phone linked to Richard Allen, even though Allen's admitted multiple times that he was on his phone. But yet, when they do a geofence, there's no phone. So, where was that phone? CR, thank you so much for the $1.99. I'm going to play this real quick, full screen for just a second.
Schenck said it wasn't me who wrote Richard Allen Whiteman. Baldwin asked Schenck if details and accuracy matter to her. Schenck said, yes. Baldwin said that many people reported seeing someone who looked like the picture of the bridge guy. Schenck agreed. Baldwin asked Schenck if Liggett was running for sheriff when she made the connection between Allen and the reports of a man on the bridge. An objection from the state was sustained by the judge. Baldwin asked if Richard Allen self-reported. Schenck said, yes, he reported it. During cross-redirect, Baldwin asked Schenck, to your knowledge, Richard Allen came forward to assist with the investigation? The state objected that this was speculation, which the judge sustained. Indiana Department of Natural Resources Officer Dan Doolin is the next.
All right, so we got to sit up here. So then our second witness of today is Dan Doolin. Obviously, he was a conservation officer. Excuse me. It says he's a Department of Natural Resources, but at the time it says he was a conservation officer, which is kind of like a fish and game officer, that deals with fishing, like hunting and fishing licenses and stuff like that. But he was the one that first technically interviewed Allen, and we kind of learn how that all happened. So let's hear what happened here. Let me get caught up in chat while I pause it, I guess. And thank you so much again, Tom, for the $5, buddy. I would love to know where that phone is, though. I wonder if he did take any pictures. Christina Strife, who are you? I'm just kidding. 16 months, Chris. Time is passing too quickly, and I'm going to need you to do something about this. You're nailing this true crime thing, so now why not give Fixin' Time a try? Just saying. Thank you so much, Christina. Appreciate the amazing support. God bless you. All right, let's see what Dan Doolin's got to say.
Interview. Doolin said that he began following up on Delphi murders leads on February 18, 2017. That day he said he received a lead sheet about Richard Allen. The original lead sheet was shown to the jury, where Allen's name was written Rick Allen Whiteman. Doolin said he called Allen by phone. Doolin said Allen didn't want to meet at his home.
Sorry, the AI is saying Doolin, but it's Doolin.
Or a law enforcement agency. Doolin said instead, Allen wanted to meet at a grocery store parking lot.
So
DeLance-
I don't know about you guys, but Allen did not want to meet at his home or at the law enforcement agency. I wonder why. I mean, I think if you were innocent and you know that something very tragic just happened to these two precious teenage girls in a small town where just about everybody knows everybody, less than 3,000 people in Delphi, and you're allegedly there just before and supposedly leaving when the killer arrived. You may have not have known about that, but you had to known that you were just there just before they went missing. Yet you don't take this seriously, and you're not going to meet at home, and you're not going to meet at the law enforcement agency, and instead you're going to meet at the grocery store parking lot. Even though, for those that don't know Delphi, let me just show you guys how absurd this is, because let's just pull up Google Maps real quick. Let's just pull this up right here. Okay, let's look at where Allen worked. And let's look at where is it Carroll County? Carroll Sheriff's Office. Actually, I probably don't even need to do that. I can just do this. Where is it at? Okay, there's CVS. All right, there's the CVS he was working at, and guess what was just across the street? I think it was either here or here, but literally right next to his street, he could probably throw a rock at it. Now, I'm not sure if they did the interviews at this particular one. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Carroll County Sheriff, right here. This is the spot that I wanted. Yeah. So, literally a 9-minute walk. So, maybe not to throw a rock, but you get the point. Sheriff's office was literally right down the road from his work, and of course he just lived down the street, literally 2-3 minutes away. So I don't know why he couldn't have taken the time to, have a formal interview. Maybe he saw the killer because according to his, his newer timeline, he's leaving when the killer arrived. So I don't know why he wouldn't have originally wanted to help. But that's just my thoughts. It just kind of upsets me because if this guy's innocent, I would think this would be a very serious thing that he would take, considering he was there just before these girls were murdered, allegedly.
Said they met, and Allen said he had been on the trail between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. Dulan said Allen reported seeing 3 girls at the Freedom Bridge at the start of his hike, but no one else. Dulan said Allen said he walked to the Freedom Bridge and then toward the Monon High Bridge. Dulan said Allen told him he was looking at a stock ticker on his phone as he walked. Dulan said the interview lasted about 10 minutes and was not recorded. Dulan said he just took...
So he can obviously, that obviously somebody writing something down. Obviously it's not recorded. It's not an official interview. And I'm sure if he was brought in, they might have done more things, probably looked at his phone, and probably would have caught something at that point, and it would have probably been over for him.
Took written notes. Dulan said he asked for the phone number and driver's license number of Richard Allen. That would mean the state had Richard Allen's info within 4 days of the murders. The jury was shown Dulan's notes and Allen's driver's license picture, along with a lead sheet with Dulan's interview. Dulan said in September 2022, he received a call from Steve Mullen asking if he remembered talking with Richard Allen. Dulan said he then did more research and found Richard Allen's fishing license information. He told the jury that on April 1st, 2017, Allen changed his height on his fishing license from 5'4" to 5'6" and decreased his weight. Doolan said that stuck out because it was an uncommon thing to increase height 2 inches.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Carroll
and he
County
changed his weight. He subtracted 13 pounds off his weight as well. Now, maybe he lost 13 pounds. Who knows?
prosecutor Nick McClelland asked DeLand to identify Allen in the courtroom. Brad Rossi conducted.
So now it's the defense's turn. CVS employees in my small town only get 30-minute lunch. Yeah, when I worked at Albertsons, they had 1 hour break lunches. In the beginning, I loved them when I was a teenager. Because I lived right next to work, and we'd go skateboard and stuff for like a half hour. But then as I got a little bit older, it's like, God, I hate this whole hour. Like it's, I like the half hours, even though at first it was kind of weird when they did finally change them. But yeah, for the longest time we had hour lunches, and I don't know, it's too long because then you're just kind of sitting there and you're kind of getting relaxed, and yeah, I hated it.
The cross-examination on Dan DeLon. Rossi said he, Allen, came forward, right? DeLand said, yes. Rossi said, he told you he was on his way to the grocery store? DeLand said he didn't remember, but that was possible. Rossi asked DeLand to confirm that Allen said he was on the trail between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. DeLand said, yes.
And I don't see where Dylan would have, known the exact timeline of everything, as this was early in the investigation, so I'm sure there's some that are going to say, oh, well, he made this timeline up or something, but 1:30 to 3:30 is almost exactly what the killer's timeline, except he left at 4. But the 1:30 is exactly spot on, and of course we're going to learn that they're going to look at the Hoosier Harv store, and there's a certain vehicle, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, so continue with the defense here.
Do you know how long he was there? Rossi asked. DeLand said he interpreted Allen's statement to mean he was on the trail the whole time, based on the interview. Rossi asked, there was nothing that struck you as unusual, was there, about the interview? DeLand said no, that there was nothing that would lead him to report Allen to law enforcement. DeLand said the part that stood out to him was Allen saying he was on his phone on the trail. Rossi said that DeLand said nothing stood out during his deposition.
Now, keep in mind, they did a geofence. Even Sarah Carbaugh said that anybody that was near that area was reached out to, because they probably did the geofence thing, and there's no mention of them getting a hold of Allen because of that. So, to me, I doubt the killer would have had his phone with him.
He asked if DeLand was suggesting Allen was using an alias. When he asked again, the prosecution objected. Rossi then said that DeLand did not ask Allen what Allen was wearing or what Allen was driving. DeLand said that was correct.
Yeah, that's too bad he didn't ask him
DeLand
that.
said he was confident that Allen parked at the old DCS building. Rossi asked if someone can register a fishing license for someone else. DeLand said, yes. Rossi asked if there were several references on previous licenses to Allen being 5'6". DeLand said, yes. Rossi said that during deposition, DeLand said...
I wonder why he's going up, because obviously the killer originally was, they thought, 5'6" to 5'10", I believe? Was it 5'8" to 5'10", or 5'6" to 5'10"? I want to say it was 5'6" to 5'10". So I think that's interesting that he's going up. You would think you'd probably want to stay down. Maybe he didn't know that the obviously, except for the official original wanted poster of the height and weight. I doubt, obviously, he knew what the witnesses were saying, even though they were saying he was kind of taller. So it's kind of funny that he's adding 2 inches on. So I don't know where he was getting with doing that with that, or maybe that's just a thing with maybe just being short and being a guy that, I don't know. Anybody can think of that. And 13 pounds isn't really a lot. It is interesting, but I don't know if that's like really damning in any way. Just to give, to look at it at both sides. And again, with him going to 5'6", that's kind of weird because it's almost like he's, now going to kind of fit into that range that they were looking for. Haley, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. God bless you. I appreciate the support. That really helps this channel. We spent, like I said, just about 24/7 listening to everything as all the journalists turn in their reports and stuff, and we try to combine them.
That he didn't think Alan was trying to be deceptive with license information. Dulane said that was correct. Dulane said he went to the crime scene multiple times, including early on. Dulane said his first time was on Feb 17 when he saw sticks and branches piled up at the crime scene.
Ugh.
He said the sticks had blood on them, but the crime scene had been released. That means there was still crime scene tape up, but it was not secured by police. Dulane said he called the investigative center to report sticks with blood, and someone came to get the sticks. Rosie asked if he saw a deer stand in the area. Dulane said he did.
Yeah, there was a deer stand. If anyone doesn't know, it's just kind of like a perched up chair, maybe for spotting, for hunting, I believe.
Rosie asked if it is unusual to find an unspent shell casing in the woods. He asked if Dulane told him it was not unusual during deposition. Dulane said that was correct.
So, for, the defense's side, that's obviously, good for them, because if it is woods, he's saying it is kind of common to find shell casings, but I don't know if it would be uncommon to find unspent shell casings, probably more like spent shell casings. But again, I'm not an expert. I don't live out there, but at least when I go out, to areas that are more notorious for, hunting, I find spent shell casings, not unspent shell casings. Just throwing that out there. Again, I'm not a hunter. I'm not a gun person at all, but that's just my observation.
Rosie asked if the Sig Sauer was a popular gun maker, and if Smith Wesson ammunition was popular. Dulane said yes. Rosie asked if Dulane was able to find the IP address, email, and credit card used to purchase Alan's fishing license. Dulane said yes. It was paid for with Alan's credit card, but he didn't know what username was used. Rosie asked if Dulane looked at what was on Alan's phone. Dulane said no. He just asked Alan for his phone's ID number. Rosie said, "You don't know he was manipulating anything, do you?" Dulane said, no. At 11:13 a.m.
Yeah, it's a shame that Dulane didn't do more there, looking at his phone. We know, say, Stephen Stearns, for instance, when they were looking into him, the moment that they caught on to Stephen Stearns is, and this was it one day, technically 2 days after Maddie Soto went missing. This is the Madeline Soto case that happened in Florida. But anything, long story short, is the detective, the female detective, said, "Hey, can I check your phone real quick?" Well, it was her and her partner interviewing Stephen Stearns, and anyway, while they're both kind of interviewing him, she kind of has the male officer continue interviewing Stearns while she asks for Stearns' phone, and she gets his passcode, and she's going through it, and she starts going through his history and stuff, starts noticing that he's been deleting stuff, and there's stuff missing, and anyway, so it's too bad that, I'm sure that's probably more of a protocol that they do now, but you could tell that's something that they are now probably trained to do in certain situations. And that was the whole turning point. After she saw his phone, even though there wasn't any damning photos, because obviously he had gotten rid of them, that he had of Madeline Soto, right after that, she literally called her boss and then got permission to confiscate that phone. And then, of course, we know it. For those that are familiar with the Madeline Soto case, we knew what happened. Very tragic, of course.
The jury asked Doolin, "What was Alan's hair like?" Doolin replied that he didn't know. Court took a break at 11:18 a.m.
Yeah, if we can, just please try to be respectful in the chat. I know emotions are high. And I do appreciate everybody being here. And again, I ask people just try to be respectful. Again, we're going to probably have people that have opposite opinions in this case. But again, at the end of the day, we're all adults. And, we can all agree to disagree. Okay, now we're moving on to Steve Mullen here. Before I do that, this is obviously Richard Allen's statement. We're just going to quickly kind of recap. So this was the timeline. The girls were leaving at 1:26. There was a car coming at 1:27, which we're going to just get into here in just a minute. There's the Mears parking lot. Excuse me. And right after the Mears parking lot is the Hoosier Harp store, which has, of course, at the time, it doesn't now, but it had a camera, something like that. And obviously, it was recording that day. So let's see. We know that Steve Mullen was the chief of police at the time. And now he's an investigator with the prosecution. He's been called multiple times. This is, I believe, his third time being called to the
Former
witness stand.
21.
And this is where I think things get really shocking here. And not a surprise to me. If you've been following the timeline, everything's lined up, in my opinion, with what the defense said. So, let's see what Steve Mullen had to say as he's called back for the third time, I believe.
Police chief and current investigator for the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office, Steve Mullen, returns to the stand. Mullen said he was called by Sheriff Liggett on November 21, 2022, about Doolin's report on Allen. Mullen said he found Allen had a 2006 Ford 500 and a 2016 black Ford Focus. Mullen said he checked video from the Hoosier Harvest store to see if he could find video of Allen's car. Mullen said he then went to the CVS where Allen worked to take a picture of his license plate. Mullen said in the review of the video at the Hoosier Harvest store, he saw Allen's car pull in at 1:27 p.m. on February 13, 2017. Mullen clarified it was his opinion that it was Allen's car based on facts of size, color, shape, etc.
So
the jury was shown frame-by-frame video showing the vehicle that...
So we could tell, even though there's, the Hoover Harvest store is not right up against the street, it's not too far away. And clearly, I could tell before, I kind of speculated that this camera must have been decent because before they actually just took the footage itself, in the early days, Mullen, yeah, I believe it was Mullen, he actually went and he would go to, he was watching the footage on the screen and he was actually taking photos on his phone of the screen to, show the cars that were going by. And of course, he got a report from each witness of, when there were, what car they had. So that way he could, obviously, get timelines of all the people that were there that he had talked to and the vehicles that they described. And so I knew if he was taking pictures, that at the very least, this footage, you can make out the car, basically. Which, in my opinion, if you want the truth, obviously cameras don't lie.
Passed by the Hoosier Harvest store. You cannot see the license plate or driver in the video. Mullen pointed out some features that led him to believe it is Alan's car in the video. Hatchback profile of the taillights, the
Interesting.
bumper, the black sports type rims with distinctive spokes.
That's a big one right there. The black sports type rims with distinctive spokes. It's one thing just to have a black Ford Focus. Obviously, black's a popular color. But when you've got some stylish rims with distinctive spokes, and you live in a town of less than 3,000 people, yeah. And you originally told him that you were there at 1:30 and he spotted at 1:27. You would arrive at CPS building at technically like 1:28, 1:29. But again, I think he told the truth at the very beginning.
Mullen said the arrival matches when Alan told Doolin he arrived. Mullen said on Oct 13, 2022. He drove to Alan's home and spoke to him at his home with the sheriff. Mullen said they told Alan he wasn't under arrest. Mullen said he took Alan to the police station with Alan's consent in an unmarked car. He said he read Alan his Miranda rights.
Read. I don't know how he put raid in there. Obviously, he's typing fast. He read Alan his Miranda rights, which, again, I think the defense tried to make some kind of fuss about that. Because he was brought in once and then he was brought in again. But usually, if you're brought in back to back, they remind you that you're still under, I forget the term, but, you're basically with the Miranda rights thing.
According to Mullen, Alan said he went to his mother's house in Peru on February 13, 2017. He said he left his mom's house at 11 a.m. and then got his jacket and went to the trails. Alan allegedly told Mullen that he passed 3 girls and was looking at a stock ticker on his phone when walking towards the Monon High Bridge.
Again, passed 3 girls when he was coming into the Freedom Bridge. Just like the witnesses that claim they ran into bridge guy they take a picture of the bench at 1:26, but after he arrives, he's probably walking past them around like 1:35 to 1:40, somewhere in that 5-minute time range. Again, they all line up originally. His stuff lined up from the beginning. That's why I don't understand why people are like, I don't know.
Mullen said Alan said he arrived at the trail by noon and left at 1:30 p.m.
So I've done a video on that. Why there's an issue that. So now he's saying he got there at noon and left at 1:30, but he parked at the CPS building. Well, there's. Sorry, I'm just writing down this timestamp. There's a big issue with this. And I'll tell you why now they've changed it again, conveniently. I don't know how some people aren't finding this fishy. So, here we go again. You have these 4 witness juveniles, right? you're on a linear path, right? Just one linear path. These are almost like security guards, and we have timestamps at certain areas because they're taking pictures with metadata, so we know where they're at certain points on this trail that is a linear path, even though it does cut off, but everybody's all on that same linear path, right? So here's our issue. If we rewind our poor juvenile girls that had to get involved in this in the first place, let's rewind them. Guess what time they arrived? They arrived at noon. So this is what would happen. Alan would arrive at the CPS building, and he would walk to the Freedom Bridge. And this is where you'd have an issue. You may have Alan in front of the girls. You might have him behind the girls. Either way, they would be both going to the bridge. And there's an issue. Because if Alan is claiming this noon to 1:30, well, why didn't the girls run into Alan while they were at the bridge? Because they all spend, the girls, they spend around 17 minutes there. They even walked out to the platform as well. Never saw anybody. They went down to the water just for a minute, but they were there. They would have had to have run into Alan at the bridge. But that didn't happen. Then, for Alan to leave at 1:30, there would be another big issue. And this is why I like the visual timelines, is because you can see, how this would play out visually. And if Richard Allen's leaving at 1:30 at the CPS building, well, oh my gosh, there's bridge guy arriving at 1:30, so he should have ran right into him and seen him. But that didn't happen. So now what happens is, so the defense, obviously I'm sure they probably put that together. And so in their opening defense, they mention that he's there at the trails, leaving the trails at 1:30. But then a few minutes later in that same defense opening, they mention, oh, he's leaving in his car at around 2:15. So I don't know what the hell he's doing for 45 minutes. They say he's leaving the trails at 1:30, but he's leaving in his car at 2:15. So again, there's a 45-minute time frame that, what the hell is he doing? So, and I knew they put that 2:15 in there because I'm sure they probably are like, oh shit, well, if he's at the CPS building leaving at 1:30, bridge guy's arriving at 1:30. We can't have that. So, again, this is where the defense, their theories, you can start poking holes in them, in my opinion. All right, 2:20.
Hatchback profile of the taillights, the bumper, the black sports type rims with distinctive spokes. Mullen said the arrival matches when Allen told Doolin he arrived. Mullen said on Oct 13, 2022. He drove to Allen's home and spoke to him at his home with the sheriff. Mullen said they told Allen he wasn't under arrest.
Sorry, I think I
Mullen
went back
said
a
he
little
took
too
Allen
much.
to the police
Here we go.
station with Allen's consent in an unmarked car. He said he read Allen his Miranda rights.
Red.
According to Mullen, Allen said he went to his mother's house in Peru on February 13, 2017.
This is important as well because there was also an issue because we were like, well, if he left from his house, because he lives, I think he lives in here or right here, I think. He lives 5 minutes away. And the two shortest routes would have been East Main Street, cut into Country Road North, and he would have never been seen on the cameras because if he went parked at the CPS building, he would have been coming this way, and the Hoosier Harv store is here. So he would have been driving, if he just came the normal route, if he left from home. But the fact that he came from Peru, this is another thing where everything lines up, because he would have been leaving from Peru, which is up northeast, and he'd be coming southwest. And you would have it where, sorry, there's this road here that he would come down, and that's why he would be going east to west, passing this Hoosier Harb store, because he came from Peru and he's heading southwest. And so, again, just every little tidbit lines up with what he said originally.
He said he left his mom's house at 11 a.m. and then got his jacket and went to the trails. Alan allegedly told Mullen that he passed 3 girls and was looking at a stock ticker on his phone when walking towards the Monon High Bridge. Mullen said Alan said he arrived at the trail by noon and left at 1:30 p.m. Mullen said Alan claimed he went to the first platform of the bridge and looked at fish. Alan allegedly told Mullen that he saw girls near the start of the trail, and they passed him, going in the opposite direction, as he walked towards the Monon High Bridge. Mullen said Alan told him he was driving his 2016 Ford Focus. Mullen said Alan told him he was on the trail for about an hour. Mullen said
Really?
Alan told him that Alan had told Alan's wife he was on the...
So he was on that linear trail for an hour, went to the bridge, but yet... now, I know he mentions the girls, but he says he ran into him at the Freedom Bridge, but yet they would all been kind of basically following each other the entire time, because they had the same timeline.
Trails the day of the murders. Alan allegedly told Mullen he was wearing a black or blue jacket, jeans, a skull cap, and military boots.
A skull cap. Remember, one of the witnesses, one of the sketches that wasn't released, shows what it looked like a skull cap the person was wearing. I wonder if this guy was wearing a skull cap, a driver's cap, and a hoodie, that way to look more taller, plus the military boots. Of course, this guy probably looked 2 to 3, 4 inches, well, not 4 inches, but, at least maybe 2 more inches than he really is because he's got all this gear on. And he's going to look beefier because he's got a bunch of jackets and stuff. So, of course, he's going to look muscular because he's got a bunch of layers on.
Mullen said Alan originally agreed to show investigators his phone, then changed his mind. Mullen said Alan got irritated and left the room. Mullen said he showed Alan a picture of the bridge guy and asked if Alan was the man in the picture. Mullen said Alan's answer was strange. He said Alan said, if the picture was taken with the girl's camera, there was no way it could be him. Mullen said he took Alan home and then applied for a search warrant. The court broke for lunch at 12:10 p.m.
So that is where, now we'll look up, I haven't researched anything because I had to put all that together. What do you guys think so far? To me, I think now they're starting to peel the layers. A black or blue jacket, jeans. Let's see, let me remind people what this guy was wearing for anybody that just may have forgotten here. But this is what the killer was wearing. Let's see, a blue jacket and blue jeans. Now, I know that jeans are common. Blue's a popular color, but again, he's on the trail wearing these colors and the same day. I mean, come on. Now, at this point, do I think they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he's guilty? No, it's only day 6. I don't think so. I think when we get to the confessions, I think that's when shit's going to hit the fan. In my opinion, of course. Respectfully. All right, let's see what's been going on since that. I'll read chat here. And thank you again to the mods. God bless you guys. Mitzi, I think I saw D in here. Sensei, Jennifer, And I always forget somebody because that's just who I am. But thank you.
Skeptical of headlines and what you see on.
All right, let's see what we got. Okay, so we got back from lunch here, and let me see if I can get this in order so we're not reading it out of order. Okay, so it looks like when they got back, it was now time for the defense to cross-examine Steve Mullen. Okay. I'm sorry, I just got to laugh at this. This doesn't surprise me at all. You are so desperate to place Richard Allen's car traveling west on 300 North, that's just before lunch. You lied to this jury, Baldwin said. Okay, I want to read this so I can... Okay. You are so desperate to place Richard Allen's car traveling west on 300 North that just before lunch you lied to this jury, Baldwin said. Baldwin provided a transcript that showed that Allen may have gone west on 300 North on February 17. Oh, I see what they're going to try to do. Baldwin accused Mullen of presenting his interpretation of Allen's statement as fact. We had already surmised it was his vehicle, Mullen said. Wanted him to confirm it. Baldwin said that Allen said he drove through town on his regular route, a loop to 300 West eastbound. So he's saying that this is his normal route that he goes. Okay, I mean I guess that's about as much as you could go with that on the defensive side. Okay. Mullen said that Allen said it was his possible route. Yes. Baldwin recounted Mullen's deposition regarding the interview and Allen's route to the trails. According to the deposition, Mullen asked Allen twice if he took a different route to the trails. Allen ultimately told Mullen if he was going to park, he would go through town. Okay, interesting. Words matter, Baldwin said. Words on the stand matter, especially when words impact the timeline in the case, like this. Mullen agreed. Allen also told you... sorry, let me just read this. Allen also told you you could have been driving... He also told you he could have been driving his other car that day, Baldwin said. Sorry, it's kind of worded weird. Mullen said, yes. You didn't tell the jury that, did you? For your theory to work, Baldwin said, Richard Allen's car would have to be at the CPS lot between 1:30 and 4, right? Yes, Mullen said. Is there anything that would contradict that? Baldwin said. No, Mullen replied. What about information from Betsy Blair? Does this look like a 1965 Mercury Comet? Baldwin asked. The prosecution objected, which was sustained. Were you the investigator who lost evidence? Baldwin asked. The prosecution again objected and sustained. Yeah, I don't know why. I think he was doing good, and now he's not. Now he's losing focus here. Baldwin asked if Mullen was in an interview where Allen said he didn't remember which way he took the trail. Mullen said yes. Baldwin asked if Mullen investigated how many black 2016 Ford Focuses were registered in Carroll County in 2017, which I know I would have done immediately. Mullen said no. But I can't imagine there would be many. Again, we're talking about Carroll County. Delphi is less than 3,000. I'm not Carroll County may be slightly a little bit bigger, or just Delphi. I'm not sure. But I'm sure it's not that big. Baldwin asked if Mullen looked to see if Allen's other car was on video. Okay, so that's what we got so far. Let me go to the other one. $228. Oh. Oh, interesting. We missed this part. Okay, so let me write this down. I just want to make sure I get the people in right order here. Oh, this is very interesting. That's 208. That is 138. Okay. Okay. Let me take a sip here. So I guess that was it for Baldwin after saying that for your theory to work, Richard Allen's car's got to be there between 1:30 to 4:30. Mullen says he wasn't given direct quotes from Allen. The jury then asked Mullen, which the jury's been amazing because they've been asking questions after each witness. They've got. I'm really happy that they've got jurors that are going to take this very seriously. They're going to look at it, and I think they'll do the responsible thing. The jury asked Mullen, "Were you in an interview with Mr. Allen where he stated he didn't remember which way he took to the trail?" Mullen responded, "Yes." So I'm not sure what that means, which way he took to the trail. As far as driving, I'm assuming driving, because it would be on the trail. Again, I don't know. You have a black Ford Focus at 127, and let me just show you guys. Unfortunately, there isn't the best pictures of Richard Allen's car, but this would be kind of an example. Obviously, this is not a one-to-one to Richard Allen's car, but this is a black 2016 Ford Focus. Obviously, I think, if it's got special black rims on it, I think that is definitely, that's huge for the case. It's one thing for a black Ford Focus. Obviously, black's popular color. Ford Focuses, obviously they're, I don't know if they're good cars, but I'm sure they're more popular. But the rims would be, to me, something that would be huge. Thank you guys again so much for being in here. If you haven't, please hit that like button. We try to cover as much as we can. Obviously I have a little bit of bias because I think with the information we have that it points to Allen, in my opinion. But we're still going to cover everything. Okay, so there's some from Tony Liggett, which is interesting. They talk about what was said in the video, which is very interesting. Okay, so at 2:08 today, so it looks like they were done with Steve Mullins. Now they bring on Sheriff Tony Liggett. Liggett tells the jury he was a detective in February 2017. Liggett tells the jury that when the tip came in from Kathy Shanks, they put Shanks. Well, I guess it would put plural. Kathy Shanks' lead. He wasn't aware anyone had seen the witnesses. Okay, I'm just proofreading this. Liggett told the jury that when the tip came in from Kathy Shank's lead, he wasn't aware anyone had seen the witnesses on the trail. Oh, so he's saying he wasn't aware of, so all their leads, he's never heard of anybody that had seen the juvenile witnesses, I'm assuming, and maybe Betsy Blair, or the juveniles at the very least. And that thought that person could be Bridge Guy. Liggett tells the jury about the process of altering the video of Libby's phone. Liggett says the Bridge Guy video was altered to be upright all the time. So what he means is because, and I'll show, I kind of did a reenactment. I need to upgrade it because I think there's a few more words that I missed. So the prosecution shows the video again to the jury. So they see the video again. Liggett describes what he hears in the video in the following way. Abby, is he right there? Don't leave me up here. Oh, God, that's tough. Sorry, that's just tough. Libby says, this is the path. That be a gun. I think he got this. That might be wrong, out of order. There's no path here. Because, yeah, I've heard this is the path. There's no path here. I think the gun comes after. I think whoever writ this could have gotten this slightly wrong. Then Bridge Guy says, guys. One of the girls says hi or huh. And then Bridge Guy says down the hill. And I'll play what I recreated here in just a second. So they were shown it again. Interesting. So let me show you guys. And I'm going to redo this again with all the words that from what I understand. But this is just a recreation. It's not a one-to-one. I'm still working on it. It's just kind of a rough draft of how it would have been like.
See, this is the path.
Okay, so I don't know why. I don't know why the videos end up playing like that.
See, this is the path.
That's weird. I might need to update my VLC player. There's something wrong with it. Okay, so this would be kind of what they would have experienced. I'm going to fix it, but this is just kind of a reenactment of the video. Again, this is just kind of a rough draft.
See, this is the path. There's no path down here. We've got to go down here.
He's got a gun. This is freaking me out. Huh?
See,
okay, and I've got to fix that. Because, yeah, I heard there was a few words before what I had in there. And the huh should have been with after he said guys. Because that's them responding to it. I think that got out of order. But the video basically, when Bridge Guy is supposedly shown, he's actually upside down because at some point, it starts with Libby kind of recording basically what you're seeing. And Libby's still coming because Libby is off the trail standing here, got the phone out. Abby is still, maybe 5 to 10 feet still on the bridge. And then we have Bridge Guy obviously behind her making his way towards the girls. And anyway, it kind of either pans up or pans down. And then you hear Abby eventually kind of run. And then I think at that point is when the camera gets turned upside down. I think she is probably trying to conceal the camera, down by her side. And so apparently when Bridge Guy is being recorded, he is upside down. So obviously they flipped that right side up.
The path. There's no path down here. We've got to go down here.
He's got a gun. This is freaking me out.
And Abby can actually be heard running. And then obviously he would be something like this, but he'd probably be even further back, but he'd be making ground. There's a metallic sound, which is him likely cocking the gun.
Huh?
And then him catching up to them and saying down the hill. And then the video ends. Yeah, that is tough. Yeah, and I remember there was speculation that at the very beginning, Abby had said something like, "Is he still there?" But this "Don't leave me up here," I haven't heard that before. Again, remember the audio's, not the best, so I think they're trying to interpret it the best they can, which most of this is what sounds like we've heard. But yeah, that's just really tough, because if she did say that, "Don't leave me up here," that's just heartbreaking. Even though they were together, but these poor girls, what they went through. This is why it just, to me, the person that did this is just a monster beyond all monsters. And I'm sure everybody can remember when they were young and at a park, maybe with their friend. And could you imagine something like this happening, and knowing that at one point you're watching your friend die, knowing that you're going to die next, or vice versa. Truly just terrible. And that's why Richard Allen, he's been the best fit, and he came a long time after. They've looked at all these other people, and I know some of these defense people think, oh, well, they're trying to railroad Richard Allen, but it doesn't make sense, because usually when we see that, like the West Memphis 3, that there's an early arrest, and that's not the case here. It's the complete opposite. You would think if they were going to try to throw somebody at the bus, they would have just thrown Ron Logan. If they wanted somebody to get promoted, I'm sure not a lot of people, but some people, they said it was Ron Logan, and especially after he died, we didn't even have to have a trial, and not even have to worry about if they were corrupted being exposed, and everybody, not everybody, but, so to me, the whole corruption and a cover-up doesn't make sense, because why the hell are you waiting 5 years and you're spending all this money, millions of dollars, just because you want to railroad one guy? To me, I'm sorry, make it make sense. Anyway, let's see what else news there is. What time is it? It's almost 3 here. We'll go for a little bit longer. Usually about this time, there's still a little bit of more to court left to go. Oops, I got the wrong one. Oh, yeah, it's 300. I wish somebody would share the car of... I know I have a photo of Richard Allen's car somewhere. Again, let me know what you think. I mean, having black rims and distinctive spokes, in a town of less than 300 people, or excuse me, 3,000 people. That's pretty damning, in my opinion. So I was hoping somebody would share a photo of the car being. Let me see if I can find that picture. It's not the best picture. Actually, I think it's in a video. Richard Allen search warrant. October 2022. Let me see this one real quick here. Oh no, it's the press conference. Oh, wish I could find that. I know I've got some screenshots. Of course, there was just a few shots of his car. If anybody has it, would like to email me, the one that I'm talking about. It's so hard because if you're Googling Richard Allen, it's going to probably pull up. Oh, this might be it here.
Today's about Abby and Libby.
Question.
No. Well,
puts out everything that they need, and they can wrap this up because some babies deserve this. They deserve this.
When neighbors learned Allen was a part of the community,
Lived here and was in.
have more on that breaking news in the Delphi murder investigation. Our Emily Longnecker is here with us now.
I'm trying to find that one where they were
Emily.
Yeah, Karen.
At the home, and you can kind of see the vehicle. You know, it's far out, but you can tell. You can see the car, you know, well, good enough. I mean, it's not, you know, a close up of the car, but you can see his car. Yeah, I don't know. If anybody does, just let me know, and they can email me a picture of his car. I know I have it somewhere, but it's probably on my hard drive or my separate hard drive there. Maybe arrest. October 31st, maybe?
Hi there, it's
No.
yes.
The full press conference. I can't see it anywhere. I'm sure the second I get off I could find it, but anyway, you can see his car. I know I have it somewhere. Oh, there's a little bit more. Liggett tells the jury that he did his research on Allen. Oh, here we go. There's a little bit more. Liggett tells the jury that he did research on Allen's vehicles in 2022 and that he went to CVS and got photos of the car. Liggett said the car was backed in at CVS and backed in at the CPS building. Interesting. Yeah, why are you backing up your car? Interesting. Liggett tells the jury about finding Allen's gun and ammunition, and that he found another .40 caliber Winchester cartridge. Liggett said he also found more .40 caliber ammunition from a different brand. Liggett tells the jury a blue Carhartt jacket was found, obviously from his helm. Now, I'm sure Carhartt jackets maybe are something that a lot of people, at least people out there have, but that is interesting. Okay, so there's a little bit more on this blog. Let me take a sip here. Liggett said about Allen, he was kind of wishy-washy about where he parked his car. Liggett said he found Allen's .46 Sauer handgun in the bedroom nightstand. Liggett said that Liggett said that was the same caliber of bullet found between the bodies of Abby and Libby. Okay, I think they worded this. I think they meant to put this down here. Liggett said they found another .40 Winchester round in a keepsake box in the bedroom dresser. They found more ammunition. That was a .40 caliber Blazer. I think it was a Smith & Wesson, or was it a Winchester bullet? I can't remember if it was a Smith & Wesson, but anyway, he had a keepsake bullet in a dresser, which is weird. Liggett said the guns found during the search were sent to a lab. The ATF traced the guns and found they belonged to Allen and no one else. During cross-examination, Brad Rosie noted that Liggett was the chief deputy when Allen was arrested. Rosie said Liggett was running for sheriff. 2022 election. Liggett noted that there was $50,000. There was a $50,000 raise that came with moving from chief deputy to sheriff. Rosie asked Liggett if he ever thought how an arrest would benefit him. Liggett said it had nothing to do with him. He said it was about the two little girls who were murdered. Rosie questioned the integrity of the crime scene, saying pictures of the scene were leaked. Yeah, by your team. Liggett said he thought the sticks on the bodies were for concealment. He said nobody saw them. Rosie asked about witnesses who saw the bridge guy. Rosie said the search warrant was based on a timeline of seeing a man on the trail. Rosie noted one witness described the bridge guy as tall and muscular. Liggett said that he understood why Sarah Carbaugh said she was panicked. 2 girls were killed. Liggett said, I can understand the panic. Rosie and Liggett discussed there were many dark Ford Focuses. Liggett did not know how many had the kind of rim seen on that video. Yeah, the rim I think that's a that's a unique identifier to that vehicle. Rosie asked if Liggett would be surprised to learn Ford mass-produced them. Liggett said no. I mean, they're pretty popular. Rosie asked Liggett if he was aware in 2019 ISP Superintendent Doug Carter relieved the FBI of duties with the case. They love bringing that up. Liggett said no, and that he would not, and that he would be surprised. Richard Allen was never a suspect between 2017 and 2022. Exactly. So, if they were trying to railroad Richard Allen, why didn't they do it 5 years earlier, before they spent God knows how many millions of dollars investigating this case and where we're at now? All just for a $50,000 raise. Liggett said Allen got lost and fell in the cracks. Makes sense. Rosie said that 5-year delay would impact the memory of Allen witnesses Allen's wife. Do you believe Richard Allen acted alone in this case? Rosie asked. Yes, Liggett said. Rosie asked if Liggett was always believed Allen acted alone. Liggett said yes. Rosie asked there has never been any DNA of Richard Allen collected at the crime scene. None, Liggett said. Rosie asked if there was any digital evidence linking Alan to the scene. Liggett responded, no. That man held himself out for law enforcement 3 days. That man held himself out for law enforcement for 3 days after the murders, Rosie said. Excuse me. Rosie said that Alan didn't flee the community. Liggett responded, hiding in plain sight. Rosie said, the bullet that led to the rest of Alan, Liggett said, that's what's put us over the hump. Rosie said witness Betsy Blair told police she saw a man who was boyish and beautiful with brown poofy hair. She described the man in his 20s or 30s. Her description does not match Richard Allen, Rosie said. But neither do the 3 girls who saw him on the trail, Liggett said. Exactly, Rosie said. Right. So they're all agreeing, right. They were nowhere close, even though all of these witnesses said when they looked at Bridge guy, they said, yep, that's the guy that I saw. During a heated exchange over the timeline, Rosie accused Liggett of making up details of the story. Oh boy, I bet it got pretty wild today. Liggett said a lab told him if they had a Sig Sauer or a Smith & Wesson, they could match the bullet to a gun. During direct, Carroll County prosecutor Nick McGleelan asked Liggett if Allen's memory in 2017 about the timeline likely the most accurate. Obviously, yes, your memory would be more accurate, when the timeline occurred. And as time goes on, it would be less accurate. Liggett agreed. During cross, Rosie asked if it was likely Betsy Blair 2017 memory of a man in his early 20s was the most accurate. Liggett said yes. So, getting a little heated. It'd be interesting to get the atmosphere and get people's thoughts on it inside the courtroom on how that transpired. I'm sure that got pretty heated in there. History. Yeah, the cop. This is what you're talking about. Yeah, he was a cop. Yeah. Or I think he was a cop and then he was something else, but yeah, I'm not going to show it today. I might if that, I was going to bring it up yesterday just because, just to kind of show Alan obviously was familiar with this bridge and, yeah, I'm not a gun person, so when it comes to the gun stuff, I understand it, but I'm not a big gun person myself. But yeah, I don't think I've had a Carhartt jacket. AP says try WTH. Yeah, I have them. I'm assuming WTHR is what you're saying. Yeah, I go between them and Wish for right now. And then what I do after I'm done live is then I start watching different YouTubers. I'll even watch the ones that are defense so I can just get everybody's kind of feelings and make sure I'm kind of getting everything up from both sides. But I'm trying to report as accurately as possible. Now, keep in mind, obviously, we don't have transcripts, and there are definitely typos. We've caught them many times. That's 6 hours ago. Yeah, and it seems like they're Allen's attorneys sent Ives a subpoena. So it looks like Richard Allen's attorneys are trying to get Robert Ives to testify. But Ives doesn't want anything to do with this case. What happened to our other report? Where did that go? Oh, there it is. So anyway, a lot to go over, or a lot that we got today. I don't know if there'll be another witness. Usually, by the time I finish, they're about done. I think they usually, what is it? It would be 5:00, just after 5 there. So I guess it just kind of depends on what witness is there, and and the proper time to just cut it off for the day. So. And yeah, but to me, like I said, when you have a vehicle that's got, now I know Ford Focus, obviously that's definitely, I don't know how popular it is in Delphi, but again, you only have a population of 3,000, less than 3,000. But if you got special rims, and Alan said he was there from 1:30 to 3:30 originally. And again, that timeline lines right up with the killer. So I can't see how people can, at the very least, disregard that stuff, because it all lines up. And then, of course, the box cutter thing. I think that was interesting. If you missed that, I would definitely go back and check that out. With me explaining the thumb guard and the box cutter, because yeah, that makes so much sense with the parallel cuts on Libby, and one being serrated and one not. It almost gives me goosebumps thinking about it. And the fact that he admitted to killing them with a box cutter. So let me read some chat real quick, and then we're going to head out. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody's support. Oh, somebody sent me a picture of Alan's car. Oh, God bless you. Oh, let's check that out real quick. Is it Rivy Lion? I hope I didn't butcher that. Oh, that's one. That's a different one. I like that though. That would actually be something that they would see. That's great. That's him backed up at the CVS building, I'm assuming. Holy shit. So he does back up his car. Okay, wait. There we go. Okay, just a second, guys. I'm assuming that's the one that's backed up somewhere. Likely probably at the CVS. You can tell, obviously it's not the best quality, but you can tell. Black rims. Again, what are the odds? Thank you for covering this. Thank you, Stephanie. It's my honor. That certainly doesn't look like no Mercury Comet. And we'll probably talk about that, because they're going to probably argue maybe that tomorrow. I'll show why the Mercury Comet is a nothing burger, because there's a car similar seen before and after that comet. comet. So I feel like that the Betsy Blair thing's just, I mean, you can't blame them for trying, but again, there's a car that looks just like his seen like 10 minutes later after this Mercury comet. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Smith & West caliber was designed by Smith. Oh, I got you. Okay, it was manufactured by Win. Okay. Yeah, I need to do a little bit more research on that, Andrew. That, as a matter of fact, I'm going to write that down so I can understand that better. The watching the fizz. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times that Deer Creek, yeah, it can be clear sometimes, but a lot of times when you see it, it's muddy. So I don't know what fish you're gonna see, you know, especially 60 feet up, unless it's crystal clear. All right, let's finish the poll. So we've got, wow, we almost had 1,000 votes in that one. We got 13% say yes, after 5 days, I do now feel like he's guilty. Then we have 12% say yes, I've changed my mind. I feel like he's innocent. 36 still on the fence. And then 39 say no, I still feel like he's guilty. So, oops, let me end that. But yeah, that was kind of interesting poll. I wish I could have done one more option where for those that have felt like he's innocent the entire time and have changed their mind. But fortunately, I can only have 4 answers. Yeah, I wonder if that is like, yeah, I wonder if that is just something, yeah, like you're just used to doing. Yeah, either you're a person who backs in or, just doesn't care. But yeah, that is interesting. I wonder if that is like a habit. So, no, I guarantee that he will not speak. Guaranteed. Even though doesn't sound like there's too many words anyway that they could really use. And that recording's crap, but yeah. All right, guys. Huge shout out to my mods again: Sensei D, Jennifer, Mitzi. I don't know if I saw Jocelyn in here or not, but God bless you guys so much for the help. And thank you to all that donated, because that really helps this channel out. Oh, Des, I missed your $10 donation. Thank you so much. June, thank you so much for the $1 super sticker. Baby Kisses, thank you so much for the $1.99. And we have Trickle Sun coming in, supporting this channel, becoming a member. Thank you so much. And then we have Connie gifting a Mob Crew membership. God bless you so much. You guys are legends. Thank you so much for the support. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll do the same thing. I'll recap whatever's left out from today. And then we'll cover tomorrow, which will be day 7. I can't believe it's going by fast. Man, I can't believe it. But I think we're getting into some heavy stuff. I think we're not far from those confessions. I think those are coming. Let's see, what's today? Thursday, right? So maybe as early as next week, we start hearing confessions. I think that's going to do, that's where it's going to be do or die for Richard Allen, in my opinion. So, thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. God bless you guys. I wish I'd shut you all out, but I'd be here all day. So, We will see you guys tomorrow, same time, either 2 or 2:30 Eastern time. It just kind of depends when I get finished putting all my work together. So, but I love you guys. Be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.